I'd like to call the meeting to order. If I could ask everybody to rise, and if I could ask Selectman McCarthy Vahey to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And all the chairs are the right height.
You bet. We're good.
All right. Let's see. First item on our agenda is Wednesday's Pet. I don't see former First Selectman Sherry Stenick here to help us out today. So we will pass that item and come back to it if Sherry and our pet show up later. Next item on the agenda, to consider and act upon the minutes, regular meeting of January 15th, 2014. May I have a motion to consider?
So moved.
Second.
A motion to approve, rather, excuse me. And a second, good. Any discussion on the minutes?
Yes.
Cristin?
Thank you. Item number 6 in the January 29th minutes. It is the not-for-profit committee, and it's
on
on
the-
page 2 of the January 29th minutes.
I think I just moved the January 15th.
Oh,
one.
I apologize. My apologies.
Any
Yes, not on the
comments
15th.
or discussion on the January 15th minutes?
Oh, it's jumping ahead now.
All right, you ready to vote?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Next up, to consider and act upon the minutes of special meeting January 29th. May I have a motion to accept?
So
A
moved.
second?
Second.
And your comments?
Thank you. I was jumping ahead there. So the January 29th minutes, item number 6, the not-for-profit committee, first paragraph. The 4-1 vote needs to be replaced with 4-0-1.
Okay.
I'll second that.
And actually, I have one other
Okay.
suggested amendment, which is in the second paragraph, the third sentence, which reads, "He said some nonprofits asked for specifics on objectives and criteria." I would recommend a replacement. Some nonprofits asked for the town to provide objectives and criteria to the agencies seeking funding. Just to clarify.
Can you repeat that, please?
Yes, I can give it to you in writing as well. Some nonprofits asked for the town to provide objectives and criteria to the agencies seeking funding.
All right.
I'll second that.
Did that, all right.
Just a point of clarification on
Go.
that. I just don't recall the exact conversation. So the way it reads here sounds like the nonprofits were asking for specifics, and you're suggesting that they were asking for the town to provide the specifics and objectives to them instead.
The nonprofits were
Okay.
asking that, yes, the town, in other words, that when they were trying to, say, apply for funding, that they would be clear what the town wanted from them, so clear objectives.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for
So
that
hopefully if that
clarification.
reads that way, that was the intent.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
May I make just
Go ahead.
one comment? Just, it struck me with these minutes in particular, because the day of this meeting, there were a number of handouts that were quite lengthy, including the nonprofit committee report, the fire department materials, and the waterfall chart. And they're referred to in the minutes. Do we ever consider including those as part of, or are they just made reference to and then available? It's just something for consideration that struck
Yeah.
me in reading these minutes.
You know, because we get them delivered to us as the Board of Selectmen, I don't ever check on the website to see if the minutes include the handouts for that or the agenda. Does that include those?
No, most committees don't have that, which is something to consider.
All right, why don't we talk to, I guess, Kathleen, and see under either our current website or potentially the new website, how to I think the agenda and minutes component is going to be the same. I don't think that's changing in function or structure. I think that module is staying the same. So let's see if that can happen. And also, I guess the town clerk would be the other body, because I think they, at the moment, do the updating of the minutes and the agendas for going forward, but that sounds like a very reasonable suggestion. Certainly, we put a lot of information up on the web.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on these changes to the minutes? Any amendments? All in favor of the amendments?
Aye.
Aye. The minutes stand before us as amended. Any further discussion on the minutes? Ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good, thank you. All right. Next item up are appointments, and this one is to hear, consider, and act upon the following appointments to the Burr Gardens Advisory Committee. Lisa Callahan, a Republican, 290 Beach Road, term from 11/13 to 11/16 to fill a vacancy. May I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
A second.
Second.
All right, now Ms. Callahan is unable to be here because she's traveling.
Okay.
We do have a representative from the Burr Gardens Committee. Ms. Finley, would you be able to come up and give us a few words on Ms. Callahan's background and why she's a good fit for this committee?
My name is Jeannie Finley. I'm the secretary of the Burr Gardens Advisory Committee, and we have approached Lisa to join the group for several reasons. I've personally known her for 27 years. We have children the same age. We went to the school system together. She was always active, helpful, bright. She lives on Beach Road, so the Burr homestead is her backyard, and anything will affect her directly, so we thought it would be great to have her on board. And just think she's a great member of the community and would be a strong member to help us out.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments from the board?
No.
Any comments from the public? Seeing none, back to the board. Are we ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
A hearty congratulations to Ms. Callahan.
Thank you.
Wherever you are, and hopefully the
She's in
internet is
Tokyo.
reaching out to you in Tokyo,
In
halfway
Tokyo.
around the globe.
But
I
I
hear the
heard
gardens are
email
rather
her-
nice there.
I think so. I've never been.
And Ms. Finley, thank you very much for filling in and representing your new appointee as well as your committee. So,
Thank you.
And again, just from the board here, please thank your committee for their efforts to help beautify Fairfield, especially in the year of our 375th birthday.
We've got big plans.
All right, thank you. All right, next up, cemetery workdays. To hear an update on cemetery restoration. Ms. Marks, would you care to come up and give us some background?
I don't know if you saw the reports. Did you get
Yes.
copies? I know
We-
you
via
emailed
email,
yours, but
yes.
I just wanted
Yeah.
to take it.
Thank you.
And no, I'm not asking to have any removed this meeting. I finally got them all back in.
Great.
No, just to give you a brief update, I did mail out a report letting you see the befores and the afters of the headstones. We had, actually, we targeted 8 to be removed and repaired and found out that actually 1 didn't need to be, so we only had 7 that were removed and repaired. We got the approval from you, so it was much appreciated, and I can't thank, I see Joe in the audience, I can't do this without the town and everybody that pitches in and helps me with Ken Placco with the trees, and I can't do it by myself. But the 8 have been returned, they've been repaired. Judge Caruso has been notified that they all are back, so Kathy Timniak is now no longer guardian of them, which I know she's happy about. As far as what's happening going forward, I'm involved with 2 groups. I was newly installed as a DR member this past summer, and I'm also board of the Greenfield Hill Village Improvement Society. The 2 of us, both boards or groups, have targeted the Greenfield Hill Cemetery as our project for the 375th. So we have different things, components happening from each group. Under the Greenfield Hill Village Improvement Society, we're going to be hosting an Arbor Day to have 2 trees, dogwoods, placed where the boxwoods that were outside the cemetery entrance. They've been removed. So that's what we're going to do for the trees. We're also considering a lantern tour in October for the Greenfield Hill Cemetery. It would be a first, but I think it would be fun. And the third thing, well, also the brochure. I gave you samples of what we've been working on with the Easton Cemetery Committee. So these were the 2 cemeteries that the town took ownership of. And I'm working on one for the Greenfield Hill Village Improvements Society and the cemetery. And we'll have that inside the cemetery. So when people come, it'll be attached to the back of one of the benches, and they'll be able to read the history of the cemetery and some of the more notables. So that's what the Greenfield Hill Village Improvement Society is doing. The DAR, we had the benches repaired. They were falling in disrepair, and the town graciously came and fixed them. My painter is going to paint the whole structure for free in the spring, if it ever comes. And Kathy Timniak and I and Betty Oderwald have another member who is a master gardener who is designing a new entrance, plantings that will be appropriate to the historic cemetery. We're working on getting the gate replaced. The wooden gate is in very bad shape. There's a wrought iron gate that is currently in my barn that needs to be rehung back at Dr. Bronson's vault area. Somebody tried to steal it, so I took it home, and I'm having that rehung when we have the other gate fixed. And I'm missing something else. Well, and then, of course, the maintenance. We're going to be doing another cleanup day and having the back hill mowed, tree work done, the things we always do. So that it will be shining for the anniversary.
Wow, thank you very
You're
much.
welcome.
Any comments or questions from the board?
Just a quick thank you for all your ongoing efforts to preserve our cemeteries and our history and our heritage. I mean, we really appreciate everything. So, thanks.
It's important.
It is. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I agree, and I also appreciate your working together with the different groups, the beach residents group, and
Right.
love seeing the pictures of the members of the community out helping, and you are leading that effort, so we're really grateful.
Well, Paige
Everyone.
Harmon was very helpful in us doing the old burying ground. I couldn't have done, I can't do both all the time. And it was nice that the residents there, the Fairfield Beach Resident Association, got involved because it's kind of in their backyard. So they're now excited about working in there, and we've done one cleanup day, which is what we just finished. So I think if we can just keep getting different groups to kind of oversee and watch, then they'll be better cared for. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to echo my colleague's remarks. I think that, we talk about Fairfield having a volunteer spirit, and I just think, listening to what you just stepped through, that's a shining example of what you're doing,
Yeah.
but also how different people work together. And some of the names you mentioned have been
Right.
folks that have been very active in town or belong to different groups,
Right.
but are coming together to help preserve, as Kevin said, our heritage, our character of our town.
We all live in the same town, so we all should be working together for the common goal, and at least that's my philosophy.
Well, I think that's a great example of how neighbors need to remember that we're all part of one community,
Right.
and certainly speaking to one of the political boards in town, it's certainly nice to see a living example of that for us to remember from time to time. So
you.
just a big thank you. from
You're
the town.
welcome. Thank you.
All right, next up, a report from the Director of Operation Hope. Carla, would you care to come to the podium and fill us in?
I hope I have enough time. Just, wind me up if I start going too long. So I'm so pleased to talk to you today about Operation Hope. Any opportunity to tell you what we do is,
Could you just
great.
introduce yourself for
Certainly.
the TV viewers at home that may have not have met you and your formal position?
Of course. I am Carla Miklos, the Executive Director of Operation Hope in Fairfield. And I'm going to quickly run through history, location, funding sources, and tell you what we do. And then if anyone has any questions. So we have been operating in town for just shy of 30 years. We started in, depending on who you speak to, 1984 or 1985. Basically what happened was a few things were happening sort of globally and locally that caused a visible homeless problem in Fairfield. Those things were a downward spiral of the economy, a effort in New York City to criminalize the homeless, and they started moving down the 95 corridor towards other locations, and deinstitutionalizing of mental hospitals, which were releasing people into the community with nowhere to go. So in this town, we started to see people sleeping under park benches and under trees and in parks, and a couple of concerned citizens got together notably Reverend David Smollett and Rabbi Label Waldman of Congregation Bethel. And they said that we've got to do something about this. And so they opened up First Church for a while and let people know that they could come inside and stay there. And what happened basically was that it was more than they could handle. So they approached the current First Selectman, which was Jackie Durrell at the time. And Jackie was building the new police station on Reef Road. And she generously donated the old police station, which is where we still have our shelter and our community kitchen. So we are very grateful to the town for recognizing the need to do something about this problem, and we've been serving the community ever since. So currently that location houses our community kitchen, which serves lunch and dinner every day to anyone hungry in the community. That's about 32,000 meals a year. About 50 people come through for lunch and dinner. All of those meals are generously donated by people in the community. Civic groups, PTA groups, churches, synagogues, individuals, families. Somebody 365 days a year provides lunch or dinner for 50 people. And that is an amazing testimony to exactly what you were talking about, the spirit of volunteerism in this community. A different set of volunteers comes in every day and serves lunch and dinner to the people who come in to eat. So it's really a remarkable process. It's something to behold. And if any of you are ever interested in either preparing meals or serving meals, certainly contact me. So we serve breakfast also to the people who stay in our shelter, because the shelter is there too. So the shelter houses temporarily about 175 people a year. We have beds for 18 men, 6 women, and 3 families. And we consider a family single female head of household with children. So at any given time, that can be anywhere between 6 to 14 individuals in 3 families. Our program is that. It's a program. It's not an emergency shelter where people stand in line and wait for a bed. It's an opportunity to enroll in some shelter and case management that could change your life if you're ready to change your life. And so we work on a couple of different things. Everyone who comes to stay with us has the opportunity to reconnect to family, friends, and community, work on their physical and mental health, work on obtaining income through work and through benefits, and prepare themselves to obtain and maintain housing going forward. There's no set period of time, although the federal government does give us some guidelines that are very short, but we tend to work in 6-week cycles. If people are working on their goals, then they stay with us longer. If it's not working for them, it just might not be the right time right now. So we're very lucky to do this work, because if people aren't able to put their burdens down and stop what they're doing and start looking at a different opportunity to do things in a different way, then the problem just keeps self-perpetuating. So we're very fortunate to do that work. In the winter, when the temperature goes below freezing, we are a winter overflow site, so anyone who's outside might be able to come in. We can't take extra families in, so they call 211 for that assistance, but we do take extra single people in. And so that can be anywhere between 1 and 15 people a night, depending on who shows up. You may or may not be aware that we have, and have had for a long time, a small outdoor homeless population. Those are people who choose to live outside, and some of you may encounter these people occasionally and wonder why we're not doing something about that. We are doing a lot about it. In America and in Connecticut, you have choice about how you live, and you don't have to come inside just because there are resources for you. So we do a lot of outreach to that community. We know where they tend to live, and we have them come in and eat with us. We do their laundry once a month, we offer them showers once a week, and we do a lot of subtle outreach, hoping that one day somebody will decide to change what they're doing. And we've had relative success with that, including housing 2 of the town's more notorious outdoor people. One has been housed for over 15 years, and the other one's been housed for 5 years. And both of them were very, very challenging cases. That was their personal choice to live against the grain. And so that's a lot of work that we do that you don't see and you may wonder about. We're always available too for the library, which tends to be a place where homeless or people who are disenfranchised congregate, but we're available anytime they need us. So we do a lot of outreach in the community. I mentioned that the community kitchen serves 50 meals a day, but I also wanted to let you know that knowing that not only our population of homeless people who are currently staying with us, but also the transient people that may come in for a meal probably don't have access to good health care or aren't accessing health care even if they do have access to it. We have at least every Wednesday, sometimes it's Wednesdays and Friday, we have a nurse practitioner on site from Southwest Community Health Center who does health screenings, private meetings with clients. She does full workup if that's what they need, makes referrals to other places where they can get help, and gives them a lot of information about how to navigate the new healthcare system. So we're really concerned that people get that information, and that's been working really well for about 5 or 6 years. And so that's that building pretty much, and that's what we do over there. At 636 Old Post Road, which is sort of across the street, former Fairfield Historic Society building, that's our home to our administrative offices, our clinical team, and our food pantry. So I'll start with the food pantry, and you may be surprised to know that we serve over 500 unique households each year, Fairfield residents, who are meeting not only income criteria, but also are in real need of nutrition and help. So in the course of a year, we give out enough food to make 125 to 130,000 meals. It's a lot of food. All of that food, for the most part, except for small amounts that we purchase from the food bank, is all donated. So again, those food drives that are happening in schools and churches and synagogues, and when you leave Stop and Shop where there's a little shelf that says, would you like to donate to Operation Hope, that food is critical to serving your neighbors that are in need. And those neighbors are individuals, families, seniors, people who are really struggling. And so we're grateful to be able to do it. Any given week, we're open Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 10 to 12, Thursday nights from 4 to 6. We see at least 20 people on each shift, so 20 households, so 80 households, maybe 140 people a week. But it's 500 plus unique households. So these are people that you know. They are your neighbors. They are people that maybe cut your hair, or drive the school bus, or sit next to you in a restaurant, and you're not aware that those people are struggling, but they are. And we're very lucky to be able to do this work, because if somebody is able to come and seek that help, it gives us an opportunity to talk to them about other things that may be happening, and give us a chance to figure out, are there other resources that we can connect them to, and can we use this as an opportunity to prevent them from becoming homeless or at risk of eviction, foreclosure, or other things that might be happening. And if there are any mental health issues or emotional health issues or financial issues that we can be useful in resolving, that's a wonderful opportunity for us, and we take that very seriously. So that's the food pantry. Most of you don't know that we own or operate 46 units of safe, affordable housing in the community. 30 of those units are in Fairfield, and 16 of those units are in Bridgeport. They're scattered around town, and the only ones that you might be aware of is the housing that we have in the Old Navy site on Jarvis Court, abutting Veterans Park. We have 8 units there of family housing. They're 3-bedroom townhouses, 21 kids live over there. All of those people have had significant struggles in their lives and now live in a pretty nice place, in a pretty nice community. Their kids get to ride their bikes to Sherman School and have a really wonderful life a block or 2 away from the beach. We've been operating that housing for about 5 years. The other housing we started maybe 14 years ago. Some of it's for singles, some of it's for families, all that blends in nicely with the community. You wouldn't know our housing from anybody else's housing. Our model of housing is it's affordable, meaning that people pay 30% of their income for rent, which is really determined to be a guideline across the board for you, for me, and for them. Should people improve in their ability to make more income or receive more income, the rent goes up commensurate with 30%. The balance of that we either subsidize, or when we're very lucky, we might have a subsidy that helps us pay for that, but that's very rare. So we're raising money all the time to make sure that we can afford to maintain that housing. All of that housing comes with clinical support and case management, so that the people who are living in our housing remain successful and don't revisit homelessness or other issues that caused them to have problems in the first place. So we've been very successful, housed a lot of people over the years, and I think we do a really good job there. And also contribute nicely, I think, to your affordable housing numbers. So I believe we're a good neighbor all around as far as that's concerned. And usually our housing, is the best looking house on the street, because it matters to us that we're good neighbors. And so occasionally, we have a little work to do. So another item that you might not know about, and if I'm talking too fast, slow me down, but there's so much that we do. We've been involved for about 4 years now with a larger regional community collaboration and looking at new ways to end homelessness, because it's such a complex issue. And when the economy started getting a little rough again, and the increase of certain drug use like prescription drug addiction and the increase in heroin in the community, we had to really start looking at what we were doing in a different way. So In the summer of 2012, we joined up with 3 other agencies, 2 from Bridgeport, 1 from New Haven, and us, and we formed what we call the Bridgeport Housing First Collaboration. And our goal was to find the most vulnerable people in our population, so in Fairfield and Bridgeport, identify them, put them on a registry, and make a commitment that in order of the most vulnerable, meaning we looked at a tri-morbidity scale, so their physical health, their mental health, and the length of time that they had been unsheltered and unhoused. We were going to commit to get those people off the street. In the first 6 months, we were able to house 69 of those people through a partnership with private landlords, just asking them, please take a risk on this. We'll get you a Section 8 voucher so you get your fair rent. We'll wrap services around these people. 80% of them are still housed, which is really amazing. And we've been able to systematically, every month since we've done that, reduce the chronic homeless population by 6%. If any of you saw the 60 Minutes show 2 weeks ago on the 100,000 Homes campaign, we've been part of that campaign for a couple of years. It's not something we talk about a lot, but we've had some really good successes. And we've been able to reduce the chronic homeless population, meaning people who have been consistently unsheltered and unhoused, or episodically over 3 years had at least 4 episodes of homelessness, by 42%. So it's not that other people don't enter the system, but we are targeting and not just taking people that show up, but going out and looking for these really difficult cases, people who might not make it through another winter if they're living outside. And it's been really a good experience for my staff to sort of reacclimate themselves to why we do the work we do, but also for the community, because when people are that desperate, it's not good for any of us. It lowers all of our sort of emotional whatever well-being, because we know there are people out there, and you know there are risks involved with people who are that marginalized. And so I think we're doing a very good job on a local level and just a slightly larger regional level to really attack the problem. And that will raise the quality of life for everybody, I think, in the community. So that's pretty interesting work. And if you haven't seen the 100,000 Homes campaign story that was on 60 Minutes, you can go on the website and take a look at it. It's pretty remarkable. And it's all about not saying that we know when people are ready to be housed, but just seeing each person as a real human being that needs the opportunity to have shelter and start from there. Because if you don't have sort of a place to stand, how can you really improve yourself? So those are some of the things we do, but I also wanted to mention that we've been running the Storm Sandy Fund for the town, for people who were affected by the storm. And Mike especially might be interested to know that so far we have given out $211,800 to residents in need.
Fantastic.
And that's through our town's fund. We didn't wait for the state, we didn't wait for the federal government, which is still trying to figure out exactly what it's doing, or they are doing. But instead, people in the community wanted to help their neighbors, and the money came in, we organized it. I wrote a grant to the Robin Hood Foundation after they had their big concert and asked them to consider Connecticut as part of their giving, and we got $100,000 from them, raised another 100 plus from people just like you and me, and we've been really able to help a lot of people. So I could go on forever, but that's kind of an overview of a lot of the things that we do. And I'm grateful to do it in this town. Thank you for giving us that opportunity, and if you have any questions, please let me know.
All right. Carla, thank you. That's
Okay.
a bunch of great news. Any questions or comments from my colleagues?
Go ahead.
I'll just say, wow.
Yeah,
You know,
thank you.
It might just be the fast talking, though.
No,
Like,
you
it
know
seems
what?
like a lot.
I don't mind the fast talking. I like it because we're able to get more in
I
that
just wanted you
period
to
of
know all the
time.
things we do.
But it's really amazing the work that gets done, and I certainly have had interactions with Operation Hope and have been involved in different ways, but there's so much more. It's kind of like an iceberg, and I think part of what is a sign of success, and perhaps it works against you, is that you are doing so much work so effectively that so many people don't know. In
Yeah.
other words, you're addressing so many of the needs and the problems that could happen, and so people don't have necessarily the awareness, like what you said, that these are our neighbors. These are people that we know who are reaching out for help, and you're there for them to help them. So,
You know, it's a challenging thing to do this work in a community like this. It's very unusual. Usually, programs like this are located in urban centers and not suburban centers. So a challenge for us is we certainly are not going to parade our clients out for view. They're not, animals in a zoo, right? They're our friends and neighbors. And so unlike large cities like, say, Chicago, where someone's going to risk having her picture on a billboard if it's going to help others because her children won't be stigmatized in school, it's not the way it is here. So it does make it harder for us to tell our story without telling their story directly, but it's a good challenge to have, so thank you.
I have a question.
Go ahead,
actually.
please.
Go right ahead.
So my question is, and I've talked to you about this in the past, I know Fairfield Housing Authority and you have a relationship and you've worked well with Carol, and just
Love
wondering
her.
if you can kind of give us an update in terms of how that connection works and
Well,
at present.
I think that's more of a, in the future, how that could work,
Yeah.
will be when the housing authorities obviously had some bumps in the road, and, I applaud Carol for being the strong leader that she is. There's nobody like her, really. But I'm hopeful for a day when they can pursue project-based Section 8 vouchers. The difference between a tenant-based voucher and a project-based voucher is that landlords can make their units affordable no matter who the tenant is that comes in, based on a project-based voucher. So that creates a stable, affordable housing portfolio for a community. When it's a tenant-based voucher, if the tenant feels like leaving, she takes her affordability with her. So the unit then becomes a market-based unit. So my hope is that when we get to a certain point where the housing authority is ready to pursue that opportunity through HUD, not only will that give them some administrative dollars back for managing those, but it will help us create more permanency of affordable housing and help us do our work in a different way than hoping that one of the people that we house is lucky enough to get a tenant-based voucher. So that's one thing. And then we're hopeful that she'll be able to do some of the reworking of her housing that she's looking at doing, and that in the future maybe we'll be able to do a housing development together. Recognizing that small scale is what works in this community. We're not looking to do big scale. It doesn't really suit the community. It doesn't really suit our clients. So does that kind of
Yeah.
answer your question?
It's a great answer.
Okay.
One
Okay.
more follow-up
Sure.
question, which is just for people to generally understand. You talked about being good neighbors and the number of housing units that you provide. And maybe you can just give a quick explanation as to what that means and how that helps us as a town
Right.
um,
Well, so
from
I
a
think
housing standpoint.
I think our housing does a couple of things for this town. We're a much more diverse community than we sometimes realize, and it's always been that way. So there are people from, very low economic means to very high economic means living in the community, and that creates a sort of depth of community resource that you might not always think of. And if we get to the point where we're a community where all the people we depend on in a day can't afford to live here, then it really changes the landscape. If your firemen and your bus drivers and your hairdresser and the person who makes your Starbucks coffee can't live here, and they have to come in from the Bronx or something because they can't afford to live somewhere else, it really changes what your community is all about. So it's important to us to house, people who are Fairfield residents first. We always, all our services go first to Fairfield residents and then to the surrounding communities. But also, I think what our affordable housing does is because we take good care of it and because we do everything we can to support the people who live in our housing, recognizing that they have free will and there's only so much you can do. You can't control people's behavior entirely. But we have high standards and our clients appreciate that we think they can meet those standards. We become good neighbors and we help people reintegrate back into the community in a way that's very respectful of their neighbors and of their families. So I think, it's a balancing act, but I think we've been doing a really good job. It's not without its moments, but for the most part, and I will tell you that when we built our housing on Jarvis Court, occasionally there's a reason that the police have to be involved in some kind of dispute or whatever, but the police have told me that calls to that neighborhood went down substantially after our housing was put in. So we've helped stabilize that neighborhood a little bit. It's always been a challenging community. It's still maybe a little challenging, but we've done a lot, I think, to bring some stability over there, too. So it's not all, affordable housing doesn't have to mean it's something negative. What it means is that we believe that the people who are in our community should be able to stay in our community. And so, anyway, that's our philosophy.
Part of what I wanted to say, too, is I appreciate the way that you help us as a community understand the gift of everyone who is here and part of our community, and that you speak so positively and remind all of us that we're all
Yeah.
part of the community together, so.
Thank you. We're so
thank you.
lucky to do it. Thank you. Do you have a question for me?
I wanted to first, echo and support the comments that Cristin made, because, there aren't enough ways or enough words to show you gratitude and to thank you for everything you do.
Thank
And
you.
for 30 years of what you have done for our community, our town, our neighbors, our children and our seniors. It is phenomenal. It's not very good. It's excellent. It's superior.
Thank you.
There aren't words that I can, properly use to express my thanks for what you do. And the other thing that caught my ear during your presentation was, some of your, proactive approaches to addressing, the homelessness people and the issues, and identifying them and reducing the rates of people who are out there on an annual basis. And it's a really interesting approach, and it makes a lot of sense, and it reverberates back into our town.
Right.
And people become neighbors, and people become friends, and they get to know each other, and they support each other. And it's just a wonderful feeling that you're able to create here in our town, which is a unique town for a program like this,
Very
like you
much.
mentioned.
There are only 4 towns in America supposedly that, and I'm doing research with Homes with Hope in Westport, because we're 2 of the 4 towns, where programs like ours are located in suburban areas and not urban areas. So it's really unique. You have a very unique model.
We have a
that,
unique model, and we have a wonderful group that supports that model. And the other comment I wanted to make, or question, I liked what you're saying about the potential change to how the vouchers are viewed,
Right.
and what the impact of that could be to our community. I think I understood what you meant, but could you just expand on that a little bit?
Sure.
If changes like that were to possibly go through, what could be the impact to our town as a whole?
I wish Mark Barnhart were here, because he would actually have something to say about that too, but I'll say my piece,
Please.
which is that the beauty of a project-based voucher is that it maintains the housing unit as an affordable housing unit, as opposed to being just a rental unit waiting for someone to come in with an affordable voucher. So what that does is it adds to your affordable housing count. So when you're a community like ours that hasn't reached the magic number that the government has determined is the number, you're always at risk of someone coming in with a high-density project and pushing you to accept something under the guise of affordability, when really it doesn't serve anyone in the community well, and in fact it changes the landscape of the type of housing you have in your community. And those situations, which Mark can be very eloquent about, are impossible to fight against until you hit your number. So one of the things that project-based vouchers would do would be to take a lot of the affordable or potential affordable housing in the community and sort of solidify it as affordable. Would change a lot of things for you. The other thing it would do is create a stable of housing where people can pay 30% of their income for rent and live the way they should be able to live, and to sort of mitigate the high cost of living in a community like this. And so that, people of limited means, or people who are making salaries under the $128,000 a year that you need to make to live comfortably in Fairfield, can afford to live here. And so I think it does a lot of things to sort of equalize the playing field, but not punish the landlord, and create more stability in your housing instead of less stability in your housing. So it does a lot of things. It's a great it's not the only answer, but it's a great answer.
It is, and thank you for explaining that again. That really sounds like a program, or something that could help us going forward.
I hope we can figure out how to do it. And Carol's not opposed to it. It's just a matter of timing and priorities. And I forgot to mention that Mike Roston, my board chair, is in the audience.
Mr. Roston, bow tie and all.
I decided at the time I attended the Board of Selectmen.
I just happened to come tonight.
You need to say that from the mic, Mr. Roston.
Really?
Yeah. You got introduced.
to
You can't
see
stay
you.
on
You gotta
camera.
come up
Come on,
now.
all the
Let
way up.
everyone see you.
I'll sit.
I will-
Thank you.
I have another question.
My name is Michael Roston. I am the Board Chair of Operation Hope.
Carla, don't go away.
And
You're not-
I decided after 27 years in town, it was time to attend a Board of Selectmen meeting. And I would just answer Kevin's question a little differently
Please.
than Carla. By the number of appeals that you all receive from us for financial support, it is not easy running Operation Hope. Certainly, the existence of Section 8 project-based housing would also solidify another funding source for us and stabilize our internal operations and the number of gray hairs that some of us on the board accumulate on a regular basis. So, but we're thrilled to do this work and blessed by an incredible cadre of volunteers of all ages, sizes, shapes, and commitments. It's really wonderful.
Thank you.
Mr. Austin, thank you.
Thank you.
Kristen, you said you had...
Just a quick,
I'm good. Go ahead,
We'll come back.
please.
one other quick question, comment, actually, for Carla, which is,
Yes.
One is, thanks for mentioning Mark, because I know he's been here and he'll be back in
Yes.
terms of the
Right.
affordable housing plan, so this is a conversation that we'll be continuing here. But just curious where those other two communities are. The two are right here in Fairfield and Westport.
I had that information today because I was talking to the executive director of Homes with Hope about, we're hoping to go on the road and do a presentation about solving these problems in suburban communities and teach some other communities how to do it. I don't have it with me, so I
I'd
will
love to
follow up,
find out.
though. I will let
Just
you know.
the executive director's name, do you remember that
Oh, Jeff
offhand?
Weiser.
Okay.
I think you know him.
Yes, I do.
Yes, he's a lovely man.
Yes.
And
The,
he's a wonderful peer, and we're very lucky.
We went to college together.
Yeah, he told me he
Yeah.
knew you, and always tells me to remind you that you know him.
Well, tell him I got the reminder in first.
All right, I will.
On TV.
Exactly. There was one other thing that I wanted to mention,
Sorry, your
which
time
I
is
just
up.
forgot. Oh,
No. Please, please.
sorry, I should have talked a little faster. I just wanted to say that an important thing for you to understand is that we recognize something that you just said and something that Michael echoed, which was our role in this community is definitely to serve people in need, but it's also to provide a venue for other people to serve people in need. And we recognize and take that very seriously, our sort of role in creating service opportunities for members of the community. We couldn't do it without them, absolutely. But we also recognize that every school kid or person making their confirmation or their bar mitzvah or has a DUI or whatever that needs to do community service, we're here for them. And it's through that ability to work with us that people have gained a lot of empathy in this town for the people we serve. And that makes us unique too. And, we're really lucky to do this work here. So I just wanted to mention that before I sat down.
No, and just to pick up on that, it takes me back a few months where there was a picture of empty shelves
Yeah.
in the newspaper talking about the food pantry and
That's
what we need to
scary.
help. It takes me back to that Saturday after Thanksgiving that this board co-sponsored a food drive to help fill those shelves.
And
And it also
was
brought
great.
in several young students that were helping out as part of that to get their community service time.
Exactly.
Which also takes me back to the fact that my niece Taylor served lunch on Christmas Day a number of years in a row at your shelter.
See, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Almost everyone at some point in time has touched us, including John Mayer, who one day better do a benefit concert for me. But so far, he's ignoring my letters.
So far.
So far, it's always next year.
We'll get him.
So thank
We'll
you
get
so
him.
much.
Yeah.
And just, looking at a couple of numbers, I mean, the fact that I think it's 32,000 meals a year you said at the shelter?
Yeah,
You said 130,000 meals
given out through the food pantry.
through the pantry?
Yeah.
Helping over 500 those are just phenomenal numbers.
Pretty significant, and you really don't really know about it. It's hard to talk about it in some ways, and easy in other ways, but we're feeding a lot of people, and those people would be slipping through the cracks without this help, so,
Thank you for all that you do on
Thank
behalf
you.
of the town.
Thanks for inviting me.
No, it was great to have you here, and we look forward to the next time you can continue to update us.
All right, thanks, I
All right.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, from the Director of Solid Waste and Recycling. Somehow that sounds like a big movie. To hear, consider, and act upon a resolution as recommended by the Director of Solid Waste and Recycling. Would the board like me to read this? Actually, I guess I'd better for the folks at home. Whereas the South Central Connecticut Regional Water Authority as agent for the South Central Regional Council of Governments and participating municipalities has undertaken the permitting, construction, and operation of a regional facility for the collection of household hazardous waste and conditionally exempt small quantity generator business waste at its headquarters on 90 Sergeant Drive in New Haven. And whereas the municipalities participating in the facility are able to have residents drop off their household hazardous waste on Saturday mornings between 9 a.m. and noon, and conditionally exempt small quantity generators deliver business waste on Saturday morning by appointment from 7 a.m. to 8:30 from spring through fall for proper processing, transportation, and disposal. And whereas the facility is owned, managed, and operated under the supervision of the South Central Connecticut Regional Water Authority for the benefit of participating municipalities, now therefore be it resolved that the town of Fairfield declares its commitment to continue participation in the Regional Household Hazardous Waste Collection Center for a minimum 3-year period, July 1, 14 through June 30th, 2017, and confirms its intent to contribute financially for the operation, processing, transportation, and disposal of the household hazardous waste, and further resolve that the first selectman, Michael C. Tetreau, be and hereby is authorized to enter into an agreement with the South Central Connecticut Regional Water Authority for the operation of the facility. Such agreement will permit the authority to act as its agent to maintain the facility, to contract with a vendor for the transportation and disposal of waste, to receive financial support from grant sources, to enter into the agreements with other municipalities, and to operate the facility. May I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
As second.
Second.
Mr. Zembruski, could you please take us through why we should say yes to this?
All right, my name is Miklos Zembruski. I'm Director of Solid Waste and Recycling. Back in the 90s, the towns and cities established a municipal planning committee. The goal was to build a household hazardous waste collection facility, a permanent one, because many hazardous substances were toxic, flammable, corrosive, explosive, and even radioactive. They had to be dealt with correctly. The economic benefits here, we have the cost savings, the proper disposal, the public health, the savings, reduction or elimination of exposure for the public health, the elimination or reduction of the exposure, environmental health, reduction or elimination of air, water, and soil contamination. Also, the reduction in recycling conserves energy and resources which would be expended for the production of new products. And allowing the residents to use this facility encourages them to do the right thing and discourages proper disposal or improper disposal, which would cost tens of thousands of dollars for hazmat emergency response. And in the event that we need another collection due to a hurricane or some other event, the contractor would be able to set this up free of charge. The setup would be free of charge. We would only be charged per household. And every year this has been put in through the budget process. It's in the numbers in the budget that's been voted on in the past. This is probably one of the first times that this has actually been before the budget has been approved, that this has been brought before the board.
Okay. May I ask a couple of clarifying questions?
Sure.
With the board's permission?
Please.
One, it confirms its intent to contribute financially to the operation, processing, transportation, and disposal. There's not a fixed dollar amount. That's subject to whatever is approved in our annual budget process by the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, and RTM, correct?
Yes, we have. Yeah, I budgeted for this year $52,607.
Okay. And there's also your kind of hazmat day that's been going on for how many years now?
23, I think, 20 to 20.
And that, at least when I've attended, it seems to be a very successful event in terms of allowing our residents to get rid of those household chemicals, household disposables that are too toxic just to dump into the normal garbage and system. Okay.
Yeah, right. We have over 150,000 households have used the facility, and I could say they've disposed of or recycled more than 1.5 million gallons of hazardous waste.
Wow. When you say 150,000
50,000
households.
That's between the groups involved, the towns
Okay, I
and
was going to say, we
cities.
got 20,000
We've got-
households here in Fairfield, so that's a bit of a,
Yeah, we've got about 18 towns, right, Joe?
It varies, but.
Yeah, about 18 towns we have
okay.
involved, towns and cities. New Haven is the biggest user of the facility, and we are number 2.
Okay. And I know we'll go through this all with the budget, but just
Correct.
quickly, the $50,000, what are the main categories of expense for that?
Okay, we have the Haz Waste Operations. That's what we pay them for their operations, the outreach, advertisement, DEP fees that they pay, general administrative expenses, management expenses, maintenance of the facility, non-hazardous waste disposal, some utilities, and some of their travel and meetings.
Thank you. I know we'll go into more detail with the
Yeah.
budget, but I wanted to at least get a rough idea of, for everybody, what we talked about. I'll turn it over to the board for any follow-up questions. Kevin, Cristin?
Just a couple quick ones, just so I'm clear. This agreement that we enter into, or that the first selectman is authorized to enter into, it will keep us as part of this group and keep us able to access the facility which is in New Haven.
Correct.
So any member or any citizen in any one of the 18 towns, specifically Fairfield, can go up there on the Saturday morning and dispose of their hazardous waste.
Correct.
Right, okay. So in addition to that, how often are we doing the local hazmat collections? Is it a couple times a year, or what are the plans for that to complement this?
We have, as part of our fee, we have one collection here per year.
Just one? Okay.
One collection, and as part of our membership, we have to supply one weekend of volunteers or paid staff for the hazardous waste collection in New Haven.
Okay.
And some of the towns that don't have a collection there have to do 2 or 3 weekends of volunteering.
Okay.
But since we were the farthest southwest, usually other towns don't use our facility because New Haven's closer than we are. Milford, I think, is probably the closest one to us, but Milford and New Haven are probably in the middle of here in New Haven, so we don't get too many people from Milford. Occasionally, we get people that want to come down and see our beautiful town after they drop off the hazardous waste.
Good. When is the next scheduled
Let's
drop off?
see, I think the last weekend is Memorial Day. It's the second to the last weekend in August.
In August? Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we had to bump that one year because Irene came
Yeah.
through roughly around that.
Okay, that's what it was, okay.
Cristin, you had something?
A couple things. The hurricane setup you mentioned would be no cost, but then we pay per household. Is that the
Correct.
same as in the past or
Yes.
different? Okay, so it's the same. And you talked about recycling. How much of what ends up there in New Haven ends up getting recycled? And what are some examples of some of the things that might be
Well,
recycled?
some of the paints are being recycled. Some of the, a lot of those materials are petroleum-based, so you get some of the fertilizers or some of the pesticides can be combined together and reused as another, or resold as recycled chemicals.
Is there any data that's kept on what ends up being disposed of versus recycled for hazmat?
That I'm not sure. With Lori, may have the information. You know, Joe?
Offhand, I don't know.
No, we've both been members when Joe worked for another town. I don't think I've ever seen the numbers.
Okay, I'd be curious to know about that.
But some of the materials there, like I said, are petroleum-based chemicals, so they can be taken out to incinerators and incinerated as there's no minimal environmental impacts and used as a fuel.
Gotcha. Which is great. Just to confirm, so if someone in Fairfield has a hazardous item, they can either drive it up to New Haven,
Yeah.
or they can wait until the
Correct.
hazmat pickup day in August, and those are the choices that they have. Just a comment about the hazmat pickup day, I love it. I tend to save things up for the year, and then oftentimes end up being away, because it's that time of year when particularly school families who camps kind of end that last week, and so they're away. So it's just something for consideration. I know you get a great turnout already, and who knows, there might even be more of a turnout. I don't know if we're limited on the date, but
Well,
that's-
one thing we can do is we can get involved with Paint Care. Paint Care is a state licensed company that we can establish a permanent collection for paint and oil-based paints at our transfer station. That will be brought up another time. But this will reduce our cost for the disposal at Hazway Central. But this is all part of a producer responsibility or manufacturer responsibility that the manufacturers are going to be paying for the recycling of the paints. But Hazardous Central takes other materials that we couldn't take, and we don't want to take. So that would be in the future. That would be more accessible for yourself or any of the residents that can't wait for that one day because they have paints or they're moving, so.
And I recognize that residents can drive up to New Haven as well, but just, I think when you look at this resolution, one of the things that strikes me about it is that it's the Regional Water Authority. You know, and I think a lot of people don't think about that connection. You mentioned the environmental connection, so whatever we can do to encourage people and make it easier for people so that they're not improperly disposing of it is great. So I'm glad that we're able to have something here in town. I think we got a good turnout.
All right, thank you. Kevin?
I'm good, thank you.
All right. Mike, thank you very much. Any comments from the public? All right, back to the board. Are we ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Mike, thank you very much.
Okay, one more thing. Just on the recycling of our mercury from between Public Works and our town collection in 1.5 to 2 years, we saved enough or recycled enough to not contaminate over 11 billion fish, or 36,000 lakes the size of Mohegan, or one lake the size of Mohegan for 36,000 years. So,
Wow,
just
amazing
It makes a
stats.
difference.
I want you on my Trivial Pursuit team.
all right.
Mike, thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, from the tax collector, to consider and act upon tax refunds as recommended by the tax collector in the amount recommended. May I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
A second.
Second.
Any amendments?
Yes, I move that the period at the end of the sentence be removed, replaced by a comma, and the amount $20,741.18 be inserted.
Second.
All right. Any discussion on the amendment? All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
All right. The motion stands before us as amended. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. To hear, consider, and act upon any communications, there are none. To hear, consider, and act upon any other business which shall properly come before this meeting. None that I'm aware of. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.